After beating Street Fighter VI's Tokita Oma, a request given by our esteemed Brino, I received my next request. I couldn't find the original comment, so thank you viewer. If you comment on this video and tell me who you are, I'll be sure to pin it, but the question that was asked of me in this request was, can you beat Street Fighter VI as Kuroki Gensai? I was incredibly hyped for this run, as the beard is easily one of the coolest characters in Kengan, one of my personal faves, and just had an amazing fight with the connector Shen Wulong, where he not only didn't job to Shen, but he kept up with Shen and damaged Shen despite their both holding back. The stars had aligned for a perfect run, but first, we have to try to create him. So far as I know, nobody has created Kuroki, but I found a created character that looked like it would serve as a good base, and after tweaking a couple of things here and there, I came out with a Kuroki I was pretty proud of. From here, the objectives were simple. Get the gi shirt and pants, dye both black, get the karate-based Ansatsuken style to replicate Kuroki's Kaiwan style karate, get the closest thing I could find to the beard's signature Devil Lance, Swagger Step, use drive parry to mimic the perfect defense ability of Motionless, get Scudam to be my version of Senshin, and get Straight Punch 6 strikes in the form of the second level super move, Eraser. Couldn't find anything for Kaiwan style's bone binding, just like Nico style bone binding, but beyond that, I just have to defeat JP and finish the game, preferably with as few losses as possible since this is Kuroki we're talking about. Getting to the first major fight, Bosch and me versus Luke, I try to stay out of it as best as possible because I don't want to jump Luke, rather I wanted to fight him one-on-one. Unfortunately, he kept hitting Bosch into me and occasionally hitting me with his Sandblast and other attacks, so I eventually caved and decided to fight back, even backing him into the corner and racking up some good damage, and I did get my 1v1 after Luke took out Bosch, but regardless, Luke still defeated me. I guess I'm still green. Bosch leaves and I attempt to look for him, meeting Chun-Li in the process. The only lead I have on Bosch's whereabouts as of the current is the leader of the Canary Crate gang, Balua. Since the style and special moves I have aren't the ones that I need for the run, the fight is essentially just me walking Balua back and forth from wall to wall with the same combos over and over until he loses. Balua isn't particularly powerful and his AI leaves quite a bit to be desired, so naturally it isn't long before I defeat him even as I am now. Balua informs us that Bosch has gotten involved with the Mad Gear gang in some capacity, so that's who we're off to see next. After defeating a group of Mad Gears by myself, and then once again with Bosch's help, Bosch runs off with a bag stolen from the Mad Gears, and then for some reason, Kuroki allows this low-life thug to bully him into getting her a handbag. I collect the necessary materials for counterfeiter Leonardo by defeating the first Roughest Rider for half of the leather I need, and then defeating the second Roughest Rider for the rest of the required leather. The only piece I was missing then was the clasp, and for that, I would need to fight the first of my necessary masters for the run, the one who will teach me Sachin, Marissa. Naturally, her power allows her to tank a lot of damage and deal just as much, but I hold out for as long as I can, using combos and Motionless until I lose round 1. Round 2 is much the same, but if this run did anything for me as a player, it was sharpen my fundamentals, seeing as I wouldn't have any special moves to use for a vast majority of the run. I still wouldn't go as far as to say that I'm good at the game, but with Marissa being double my level, I think it's pretty good to take her down to half health. I get the clasp, and her as a sensei, so it was time to return to Metro City and have Leo make the bag. Alyssa attacks me when I return to her, but after backing her and her ally into a corner and then subsequently taking down each of the 6 Mad Gears that attempt to knock me out after I take down the initial 2, Alyssa complains that the contents of the bag were what they wanted, not the bag itself. This commotion has caught the attention of the Mad Gear's leader, Thrasher Damned, so the two of us discuss Bosch, and eventually Thrasher asks for my help with a small task, and after completing that, Luke alerts me to a Bosch sighting in Shivville, so I fly over. Bosch is indeed there, lurking around suspiciously in the darkness with a bag full of cash that he stole from the Mad Gears, and Juri shows up to tenderize us both. Knowing that Juri isn't somebody I can take on alone, I try to help Bosch take her down, but she's too strong and takes us both down after only a couple of moments. Bosch slips me the data card before absconding with Juri, and I'm left in the dark once more. To take my mind off of the seemingly constant failures, Luke sends me to Brazil and Jamaica to get him some souvenirs. While in Brazil, I get a Blanca Chan doll, and while in Jamaica, I get a fight with DJ. I start by getting in close since I know DJ has a longer effective range, but he dispatches me fairly quickly up close. In the next round, our fight is a little more competitive, but he lands a big knockback super and then range spams for the KO. I'm then able to beat Brina for the carved wooden crocodile souvenir here. Luke likes his souvenirs, and in our following fight, I try to remain aggressive, but rely on drive impact and special moves entirely too much and lose. It's at this point that I'm able to acquire the proper attire. Kuroki drip achieved. After fighting my way through the Metro City Metro, I arrive in the Mike Hagar Stadium with the intent to join the novice tournament they're holding, as I, Kuroki the Beard Gensai, am still green. Why, it was a simple fight that I was able to win in about 30 seconds with some decent pressure, and then I basically repeat and win the fight, no surprise since I'm nearly 10 levels higher than him. Again against Lisa I try to keep up near constant pressure, but she's able to crack through it a bit until I use Motionless to swing the momentum back in my favor. She keeps an even pace with me in round 2 with a decent back and forth and even almost wins, but I clutch up and take her out. Finally for the prelims, Ernest. With Ernest, I play a little more of a balanced approach between pressure and defense with Motionless, and though Ernest starts to overwhelm me in our trading, I use a healing item and am able to overtake him and win the first round. In the second round, my defense is lacking and he takes a good lead, but I then start to dominate him with strong offense and get a perfect parry, and after healing myself once again, I'm able to finish him off. Now that I qualify for the tournament, Camilla jobifies me and I challenge Bao Bao Bro at the behest of Li Fen. Bao Bao Bro's specialties are mid-range and grappling, so I know that the best course of action here is to use either longer range attacks or faster entry attacks and combo on him for as long as possible to either outrange him or outspeed his grapples. I have to heal once in the first, but I shortly thereafter win the round. In the second, Bao Bao Bro seems more trigger shy and resigns himself to the corner, where he does a good enough job fighting me off, but in a basically uphill battle for the entire round. We're pretty even, but with one last drive impact and combo, I defeat the Bao Bunhead. A sign that I am truly ready for the tournament, even though I am still green. Alan is a powerful foe, especially with his range and mobility, but I use these benefits against him by retreating to the corner and reversing positions with him with a throw, and then proceeding to drive him into the corner for as long as possible. I have to heal once, but with a healthy bit of defense and counter-striking, I'm able to nearly take him out, but he pulls a fast one on me and takes the first round. The second round is much worse for me and I lose much faster, but that's fucking lame and Kuroki is an undefeated beard god, so I run it back and basically dogwalk Alan in the first round after healing a couple times and dominate the second round with only one, arguably unnecessary, heal. Next is Veronica. Let's see if she's easy or difficult in this run. Looks like she's gonna be pretty mid this run. She certainly did a good enough job keeping up with me, but I don't think she ever pulled ahead in the first round. In round 2, she actually does a great job of chipping away at me, but I crank up the pressure to a point which she can barely counter, let alone attack first, and I defeat her. Rwancha here is basically a what if of Kuroki versus Julius. Rwancha is certainly incredibly powerful, but I essentially just play around his power by evading his attacks as much as possible, and pressuring him in his openings, which allows me to defeat him. The best recourse against Rwancha is to play as defensively as possible until he presents an opening, at which point you unleash the full power of the Devil's Lance, and I do that to win the tournament. That's 2 tournaments won, too easy. I then meet the man that is going to teach me the Devil Lance, Jamie Shu. He's basically Bao Bao Bro on crack, so I try to stick to the same playbook, but his level advantage and overwhelming power take me down in the first round. The second round basically goes the same, where he's much more evasive than me, more powerful, and has greater reach and more combos. Fortunately, I now have both of my special move masters, and now only need Ryu as a master for his style, and I can begin the grind. Speaking of Ryu, I meet several masters after this, including Ken Masters, Edmondo Honda, and the man himself, Ryu Hoshi. I challenge Ryu so that he'll accept me as a student, and the main method of fighting is pushing him into a corner and shutting down any and every attempt to counter by blocking or drive impacting. He escapes the corner, but I just push him to the other side and continue to bully him, defeating him even with his level advantage. I basically do it again in round 2, and Ryu barely gets a chance to hit me, and after a motionless perfect parry and a drive impact, I'm able to walk him up and down the stage, defeating him by a sliver of health and gaining his teachings. Now, Kuroki in the story is, as of the current, an undefeated badass. So all of these L's I've been taking so far don't really sit well with me, so I've decided to begin the grind. This is the second time I've mentioned the grind. So what is it? Well, like last video, while recovering from my wisdom teeth extraction, I captured all this footage for videos, and since grinding for levels was the most brain-dead thing I could do at the time, that's what I spent most of my time doing. Especially for this run, where I thought it would be more authentic to the character if I basically dominated every fight, or at the very least won every fight handily. So what did I do? Well, I basically spent 13 hours straight grinding out character and master levels in the Metro, fighting dozens of level 20-ish characters and riding the Metro about 150 times. In that span of time, I got both Straight Punch 6 Strikes from Luke and Devil Lance from Jamie by mastering on Satsuken and then transferring style points to those respective masters, and then got to level 60. I hadn't gotten Senshin yet, but seeing as I was about to blow through the entire game, being that I was already a smidge higher a level than the final boss, I was sure I'd have plenty of time to get and use it later. Picking up where I left off in the story, I made it to the top of the CERN building and got into a fight with Kimberly. This fight was significantly different from normal as I had an over 2 times level advantage, so I basically just used Devil Lance to close the distance, Motionless to shut out any counters, and basic fundamentals to grind her down and win. In the second round, I more or less did the same thing, taking out most of her health with a Straight Punch 6 Strikes, and I won the fight, which actually gives different dialogue. I then went up to the 5th floor, trounced the robots there, and then moved on to the carrier to beat the malfunctioning bots on deck and meet Guile. It's at this point that I learn of Lee Fen's being kidnapped by the Mad Gears, but after completely annihilating Bao Bao Bro and getting my disguise, I infiltrate their headquarters, spawn a Bao Bao Bro helmet out of nowhere, and team up with Lee Fen to steamroll these Mad Gears. Thrasher steps up to the bat, but for some reason I think I'm gonna be okay. I immediately dash in with Devil Lance, the best open, and proceed to beat the ever-living shit out of Thrasher and his only goon that he had time to summon, defeating him in maybe a minute. With the Mad Gears beaten and Lee Fen saved, I've got nothing to stop me from moving on to the latter half of the game, Ne Shal. I no-diff these jobbers and save Yua, run the resistance circuit of passcodes until I meet with Rawancha, tell Thrasher that I'll be fighting in the Ne Shal tournament as the Mad Gear rep, beat Shandi and her Crow's goons, dress down the Crow's leader Rudra and challenge him to a gang fight for the Metro City rep position, and head to Ne Shal to recruit this jobber who gets O-code by Psycho Bosch. Now it's time for the first genuine challenge since reaching true beard status, the mid-game Bosch fight. His charge attack can overpower my Motionless, but a running theme in all Bosch fights is that he's incredibly predictable, so I use that to my advantage and don't give him any room to breathe, pressuring him with Devil Lance and combos until I win the round. The next round starts similarly, but all the same I continue to push him to the walls and use an almost pre-initiative to shut down all of his attacks by attacking right before, and finally I finish him off with a Straight Punch 6 Strikes into the fight-ending combo, and he retreats to Mount Vishal. I recruit the rest of the team for the Mad Gears, they face down their respective Crows in the gang fight, and I take on the Crows leader Rudra in a winner-takes-all match. I open with a Motionless perfect parry, as I know Rudra's gonna go for a zone strike immediately in an attempt to create distance, and drive impact him into the wall. I further drive him back with Devil Lance, continuously combo him against the wall, and drive impact him to keep him from escaping, and when he teleports away, I push him to the other side and continue until he loses. In round 2, I move to immediately drive him back, and though I miss a Straight Punch 6 Strikes, I continue to dominate the entire fight with his having no possible room for recourse, and even with a second failed Straight Punch 6 Strikes, I defeat Rudra, taking the round and the fight, and win the Metro City rep position. I then meet with Kalima and enter the Ne Shal tournament. Sunpog starts off as easy as usual, but actually puts forth a good fight for somebody so novice to myself in comparison. He almost brought me to half health, especially in his moment of desperation in round 1. And in round 2, he was able to avoid my Straight Punch 6 Strikes and even land a powerful blow on me, but the more we traded, even with a second failed Straight Punch 6 Strikes, the worse Sunpog's situation got. Though commendable that he went toe-to-toe with a master 20 levels higher than him, he lost in the end. Kim definitely started round 1 by taking the initiative with striking, surprisingly from a judoka, but when I entered his realm and threw him, it threw off his whole game and I was able to effectively shut him out with my strikes and win. Round 2 went the route of a much more predictable match. I continued to strike and level change and drive impact and even land a Straight Punch 6 Strikes. There wasn't much he could do, and he lost. Hazel did not perform better than usual, resigning herself to simply throwing her weight and power around mindlessly without considering the consequences of each failed move, costing her the round. She unfortunately did not shape up in the latter round, deciding to simply try to escape without considering that the longer she ran from me without fighting back, the more time I had to slowly and methodically dismantle her. Joy was incredibly aggressive, which has its benefits, but can also be shut out very easily with Motionless and a Fortress of Defense. It wasn't long until she backed herself into a corner and lost the first round. In the second round she was more careful, but she was still on the losing end as I had the advantage in close range with fast and powerful strikes with great combo potential, as well as my Straight Punch 6 Strikes, and at medium range I could defend with Motionless and close in with the Devil Lance. Gerald couldn't even hold a candle to Rawancha, relying on super armor and powerful single hits to carry him through. Unfortunately for him, his damage was not greater than mine, I had the power to break through his super armor, and I actually had combos. Realizing that I stand on business, Gerald basically stunned me and reset me constantly so I could just motionless and counter by deleting half of his health bar. The giant was felled, and I won the Nashal tournament, earning me a spot in the Saval Hall Martial Arts tournament. Bosch challenges me to a fight at the top of the CERN building, so since I indeed have hands, I obliterate the copy bots and take him on. I don't start the fight with full health, but Bosch is at a level disadvantage and an IQ disadvantage as well, so it levels out. Consistently pressuring Bosch is difficult due to the moves he has and his armor and knockback, but the Devil Lance and Straight Punch 6 strikes do a good job of racking up damage and pushing forward until Bosch drops. The revelation that Boxhead is Bosch strikes Kuroki to his core for all of 5 seconds until we move on to the next thing, which is making the failsafe key for the Bosch Belt Bomb. I get the coils and the capacitors in Nashal with little to no difficulty, grab the spring and connector from the Red Steel factory, and then it's off to fight Blanca-chan for the last piece. He does a lot of jumping and a lot of command grabs and throws, which are bad for the exclusively horizontal Devil Lance attack and motionless respectively, but as soon as I get him against the wall, he crumbles like a sugar cookie. I was a little more cautious in the second round, which served me well, as I was able to pick away at him without his being able to take advantage of openings and counter or shift the tide of the fight in his favor. Beyond that, it was a simple matter of his being too slow to outspeed the timing of my strikes. Afterwards, I have Leo put all the pieces together to get the key. I meet up with Rawancha and then Kalima, and then meet up with the both of them in the resistance base on Mount Vishal. Rawancha challenges me one last time, but just like Bosch and all the other Rawancha style fighters, his primary disadvantage is his predictability and the amount of times I've fought this style. Most all of his biggest, slowest strikes either got blocked with motionless or countered with straight punch 6 strikes and he loses the first round. The second round isn't much better for him, though to his credit he seems to have learned the importance of a strong defense. Regardless, if he blocks high, I hit low, and vice versa, and it certainly doesn't help that my defense is simply much better than his. Which in turn allows me to continue to attack him free of inhibitions and win the fight. Finally, right before the final tournament, I gain Sachin, but at the cost of Devil Lance, which has the same input. It would seem that fortifying my defense is the way to go here, or so I thought. I attempt to disarm the bomb, but I'm stopped by JP, short for Jobber Person, and am forced to leave and try again when I get the belt at the tournament. The first match is with Boris, and it starts on my field, striking. I'm able to unleash an onslaught that takes about half of his health, but 2 throws from him nearly kills me, so I heal and restart the assault. He catches me a couple times, but my damage output is much more consistent and better timed. After healing once more, I take the round, and round 2 begins with me on the offense. He tries to stop it with a couple throws, but he struggles with varied combos and level changes, so I keep layering on attacks and completely throw away defense until the very end of the match where he attempts to strike me twice in a row, and both times I counter his strikes with Sachin, winning the fight. Next is honestly one of the hardest fights in the game, the fight against Carmella. Normally she's a joke, but being that I'm relying on a mid to close range fighting style exclusively and no special moves for offense, her jumping away constantly and zoning is ridiculously annoying and is prone to causing me to lose my temper and my focus. All I can do is just keep moving towards her and attack and hope that she's unable to counter or escape. Eventually, after what seemed like several minutes, I defeat her in the first round. For the second round, I decide to mog on her and either just continue to sweep, counter, or knock her back myself with some success. She tends to burn out easily because of her tendency to drive counter constantly, so I wear her down and wail on her when I can repeatedly until I'm able to walk her down and land a straight punch 6 strikes to win. Gora is the strongest competitor I've faced to this point, though not the most powerful, as that distinct honor still goes to Boris. And though I'm able to counter his sumo strikes with Sachin, his sumo grappling helps him to circumvent my defense. It's a little annoying, but all he is another slow heavy hitter, just with grappling, so I deal with him in much the same way. He relies way too much on the super armor drive impact gives him, so I eventually wear him down into a burnout, and, with a couple of heals throughout the fight and a straight punch 6 strikes to put him into the danger zone, I take round 1 with a Sachin counter. Now knowing what to expect, I start combos from outside of grappling range, attack the legs more often, mix straight punch 6 strikes into combos, and focus more on offense than defense. I noticeably use drive impact more often to my detriment, but I also have 13 hours of grinding worth of items to make up for what I lack, and so I Senshin counter him into a corner and do my damnedest to keep him there for the rest of the match, mixing axe kicks and roundhouse kicks and dragon tail sweeps and uppercuts and combos until I finish him with a straight punch 6 strikes. Now on to the hardest fight in the game for this playstyle, Lima. A fight that's usually a joke considering that this is for the 3rd place position of the biggest martial arts tournament in this country. Lima this time was infuriating as he's basically just Carmilla except he has an invincible teleport that he spams the shit out of. I lose the first round by a sliver, but try to be more cautious in round 2. The problem is that there are so few opportunities to actually hit Lima that I wanted to pounce when I actually did see a chance, often being punished for my hastiness. Round 2 looked good for a while, and I genuinely thought I had it considering my advantage, but he turned it around on me in the very last second. I was honestly fucking pissed at this point, maybe the only time I was genuinely mad during this run. I imagine this isn't dissimilar to what it felt like to fight Kiryu's ass blinking and Rashaska souling around every 5 seconds, but after gaining momentum and pressing the advantage, and using the full weight of hundreds of items at my disposal, that too, I was able to overcome him for my first win, meaning next round is the deciding factor. In the final round, I just continuously walked him down. It didn't matter where he teleported or jumped to, I would just keep walking forward until he entered my Sekyuken, at which point I would smack the shit out of him as ruthlessly as possible. It got to the point that he even abandoned his main strategy and tried to fight normally, but that was decidedly not the answer, as even though he still avoided a couple of fight enders, he was only delaying the inevitable. Well, being that that was the hardest fight, I would say this final boss fight was the 2nd hardest, but it was easier by a mile. So I mentioned this before, but Bosch's worst enemy is himself, particularly how predictable he is. Sure, I needed items to win. Sure, he has a move that makes him invincible, breaks through guard and motionless, hits a dozen times, deals a shit ton of damage, and can end in a drive impact, a move that he can endlessly spam. But if I know that he's just going to use that move over and over, then it's a simple matter of avoiding the first attack, motionless blocking the rest of the combo, and counterattacking him. I can literally just keep doing that until he loses, and that's basically what I did. There were absolutely occasions where I got hit, or slipped up, or he'd do something different, but I had over 100 healing items, damage reduction items, damage boosting items, and I was 5 levels higher. So it was a simple matter of taking the necessary precautions if and when he hit me, and then reacting accordingly, i.e. seeing him use the ultra move, jumping over him, motionless blocking the rest of the attack, and countering him. As I explained to my mom after the fact, this fight was not a test of your character's power or your skill as a player, but a test of your patience. How many times can you repeat the same reaction to the same attack pattern while dealing slivers of damage? Ultimately, to nobody's surprise, I won the first round after like 5 to 10 minutes, and just did it all again in round 2. Again, this run I felt really sharpened my fundamentals, at least with Ryu's style if nothing else. And I feel like my combos, timing, and mix-ups really improved here. I think I still need to work on my entries and exits, my juggling is non-existent, and as good as my defense and drive parry usage has gotten, it can certainly always get better, especially in regards to perfect parries. But I think I'm really proud of this run, even if the greatest test was a test of patience in the form of grinding to level 60 over the course of 13 hours and 150 metro trips at the start. But with every motionless block of Bosch's uber attack or perfect parry I landed during the run, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Bosch nearly single-handedly whittled his way through a dozen plus of those damage reduction caramels and roughly 50 of my health sodas, but finally, with one last counter, I bring down this removal-having Tokita Oma wannabe and win the Saval Hall Martial Arts Tournament. Jobber sets off the bomb, Bosch dies saving everyone, and now I've got to fight the Jobber, which, if you couldn't tell by Lima and Bosch being the hardest fights, was decidedly not that hard. I open up with a damage booster and take JP to work, pushing him back to the wall. He almost mounts a comeback, but since this is the last fight, I'm resorting to using my entire stash of goods. I get him into the corner with a straight punch 6 strikes and keep him there until the near end of the round where he escapes. I hit him with another straight punch 6 strikes and finish him off with a drive impact. Starting round 2 by putting him in the corner again, the assault continues until he reverses the flow with a throw, but I just push twice as hard and bring him to the other corner. I continue relentlessly attacking and drive impacting and motionless blocking when necessary and hitting with straight punch 6 strikes when possible to the point that I break his will, shut down his super with motionless, drive impact him one last time, and combo into a straight punch 6 strikes to defeat him and complete the challenge. Honestly, I probably lost way more than Kuroki would've in actual practice, but I definitely enjoyed the run. Blowing through the entire game in like 5 hours after grinding for 13 hours to level 60 feels like a power trip worthy of Kuroki Gensai. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this nearly as much as I enjoyed playing this. If we can get 50 likes on this video before the new year, I'll start on the next Street Fighter 6 challenge run. Be it, can you beat Street Fighter 6 as Cody Travers if we don't hit the like goal on the Q challenge run video, can you beat Street Fighter 6 as Gowling Wong Sawat if we do hit the goal, or some other requested run from you guys in the comments. Alright guys, that's it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. God bless you all and have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I've been the unstoppable YouTuber who stays editing and uploading instead of eating and sleeping, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.